Good evening, everybody. Week 3 press conference here for Rice Krispie Treats. Let's go ahead and knock this out. Just going to take a chug. All right. Good afternoon. A W. Competing with Mikey again for highest score. Frustrating not to come out with it. Cameron's college fund's going to take a big dip, but Mikey will pay me back, I'm sure. But congrats to Mikey. A win nonetheless, we'll take it. Progress within the team, even with some injuries, still progress. So let's go ahead and go down the list here. Trevor Lawrence is just absolutely atrocious. He's just not a good football player. He's had potential. I've had him on my team for the last 3 or 4 years. He's just awful. He never even gave the Jaguars a chance on Monday night. Probably on his last straw with me. I'm probably going to give him one more week. If Herbert's out, he's going to have to play. Kind of tried to test the trade and waiver wires this week. Didn't really get anything that I thought was worth it. So I'm going to give him another week. There's not much I can do besides that. So, Geno Smith, 11.3. Yards-wise, good game, but 2 turnovers kind of hurt the performance. Big touchdown to DK early in the game. A couple big connections with DK. So, as long as he can connect with DK, if he's going to somewhat produce, or if he's going to have a stinker, if all of his yards are to DK, I think we can weigh that out. Brian Robinson Jr., 10.2, scraped a touchdown in that first quarter, or whatever quarter in the first half, to kind of save the performance. Pretty lackluster, but Jaden Daniels shined. He was unbelievable in this ball game. Still a big part of the offense, especially Eckler being hurt now. He's going to get a big workload this weekend against the Cardinals, so I'm excited about him being in the lineup. Derrick Henry looked like an absolute monster. Classic bowling performance, 152 tutties. Absolutely destroyed the Cowboys defense. Maybe some people saw it coming after the Saints game last week, but still, for him to do it like that, it was unbelievable. I think it still keeps him in the top 5, top 10 in fantasy running backs. He's going to score touchdowns. He's going to keep getting better in the offense. They're going to keep trusting him more with performances like this. So, and Lamar being able to take away defenders, open up the box a little bit more, running outside. So, very happy with Derrick Henry so far. CeeDee Lamb, number 2 overall pick, changed the name this week. He's not producing like the number 2 overall pick and how he was at the end of last year, even though it is going to be hard for him to compete with the end of last year. Got blown out. Dak looked okay, but he got the targets. He just needs to do the production. I'm not really worried about CD. He's going to be okay. He's going to be better than a lot of wide receivers. So he needs to live up to that number 2 overall pick. He's obviously not yet, but it's still a long season. Rashee Rice, changed the name to him. He's been unbelievable. Absolutely monster performance from the slant god. Going to continue to produce as long as he's active and healthy and not suspended. If he's in the lineup, he's going to produce. He's going to get points. Again, Harrison said it in his draft. I think it's the steal of the draft. 5th round pick. I think he's a top 5 wide receiver right now, and he's doing well. I'm very proud of him. DK started the game off with a bang with that long bomb. That's like his forte almost. Not as many targets, obviously, as against the Patriots with 10, but still producing when he needs to. He's a big target. He's able to take the top off the defense. So DK is going to be a big producer, especially with the Geno stack. Goddard, superstar of the week. Late Tinker swap with Gesicki paid off as Goddard went nuclear. 10 receptions, 140 after multiple injuries. During the game, obviously, Smith got hurt. I think a couple other receivers got hurt, so it made him the number 1 target, and he took it in stride, absolutely dominated. Calvin Ridley, 1 reception, 9 yards. Useless. It's a fantasy tale all this time. As long as you put somebody in your lineup, they will never produce, of course. But Levis kind of stinks too, so it's going to be interesting dealing with him all year. Chiefs defense, an up-and-down performance. Got kind of shredded up on the first drive, then we're strong. They got a couple more sacks this week, forced a little bit more pressure, forced a turnover. So it's progress, still not great against very good teams, but we got a tough Chargers, ground and pound, tough line, tough team coming this week. So they'll be in the lineup. We'll see how they do. Hopefully they can stuff the run. Butker, a mixed extra point with a staying on the good performance. Finally got some opportunities for the long field goals and nailed them. So happy with him. AJ Cole, 13. Maybe I found my punter. It's progress. All right, moving on to my bench real quick. Herbert re-injured his sprained ankle again. Looked okay, but in the offense he has a certain cap. Ty Chandler 1.3 was useless. He's already on the waivers. Go get him, please. Ladd McConkey looked a little bit better, a little bit more solid. A certain cap, obviously, because of the offense, and he's the number 2 receiver behind Johnston. But in the slot, even maybe with the backup QB, they drop off to him a little bit more. So we'll see. Alec Pierce, 4.9, only had the one big reception for the game. AR-15 kind of had a rough game, too. The offense has kind of been stuttering the last 2 weeks. So hopefully they can get back on track. Wandale Robinson, 9.6, another solid performance with targets even when Neighbors was getting targets and touchdowns. So that's a very promising sign for my depth. And Pacheco, Njoku, and Kittle were hurt this week. I believe Njoku and Kittle will be back this week, so I'll have 3 tight ends. If you guys need a tight end, come hit me up. I got 3 top 10 tight ends. For Harrison's team this week, Baker had his worst game of the early season against a very tough Broncos defense. Carr in a similar situation against a tough Eagles defense and what was a low-scoring game all around. Monty is always going to produce in fantasy. He's so good in that offense, so productive, so they can rely on him in that offense, especially with Gibbs being still young and Monty's veteran. So if Baker does, then usually Mike Evans does too, so that kind of explains the Mike Evans dud, especially with no touchdown. Collins is clear big dog in Houston. Still put up a good performance in a tough game and a tough blowout for Houston, so that's promising. Ayuk, average performance, doesn't look very connected preseason. Should have a big one in this week with CMC out, Kittle out, Debo out, but he didn't. Just looked average. Jawan Jennings looked unbelievable. Jordan Mason's still taking over, so it's interesting. Jesus Christ. We got a text. Andrew's goose egg, that equals a shot. Brian Thomas Jr. didn't do anything. Trevor Lawrence was ass, so that's not helping him. Myers and Dixon were solid, not great. Waddle starting to develop some questions. Keon Coleman got his first touchdown. Maybe he can start leveling up a little bit, hopefully. Tutu will get reps because of his injuries on the Rams. Thielen got hurt. Could be done for the year. Harrison said retiring, possibly. He's old. But if he somehow comes back, maybe he's got light with the Red Rockets, so he's got promise on. He's got Braylon Allen, who's young. I think he's going to be an elite fantasy running back if Breece Hall ever gets hurt. Danny Dimes showed some promise finally for his first week. So what Harrison needs is McCaffrey to come back. He needs McCaffrey to come back on a revenge tour. He needs him to come back in the first place and hopefully sooner rather than later. All right, around the NFFL this week, Owen had enough for a scoring week. Stinkers from White, Jacobs, and Flowers. Goose egg from Shaheed after all the hype. Raiders -1. Cowboys didn't matter if they played either. Owen needs Puka to come back on a revenge tour. Also needs Levis to kind of take a step up. He's not been good to start the year. New acquisition, James Cook, putting the team on his back, looked good. Who was the Bills? What's his fucking name? How did I forget his name? Kincaid. Jesus Christ. Kincaid did well this week, so it'll be looking good for Owen to come back. Jackson squeaks by his first win of the year with an okay performance, not great. Who do we got here? Coop had a big day. Obviously, the early touchdown, then another one later. Him and Deshaun looked a little bit more synced up. Laporta having another big injury and not producing hurts Jackson with the draft capital he invested. Looks to fill the void. I got tight ends. Even though you're awful to trade with, I got tight ends. 41-point week from Jawan Jennings. Probably would have put him in the highest score talk, but anybody with 41 points on their team is going to be up there. Hopefully he plays him this week. He should. I don't know why he wouldn't. But another week for them, maybe the new boys after a big trade this week. Will help him settle in and be better this week. Ryan got off the blocks, took down his fellow spec competitor in a rough matchup. Decent week all around, though. Multiple double-digit performances for Ryan. Carson Steele looked the part, looked promising, even though Samaje Perine looked really good, too. Ryan just needs to keep up the momentum. He knows how it is. He doesn't have a very good team. He knows it. Caleb Williams isn't good. He's got some work to do. Alex takes another loss, which I'm sure doesn't help his confidence. Battle of the Winners Clubs. Dak, JT, and Jettas had a very, very good ball game, but stinkers by really everybody else. Very, very average, below average games from everybody else did not help the whole situation that Alex was in. He probably needs to make a couple big trades, make a big, bold move on the waiver wire, big trade to try and switch up this season before it's too late. Mikey has another dominant week. Barkley looks unbelievable. Deshaun looked better this week, so that's not a good sight. Olave looked unbelievable in that offense too. Even in a low-scoring matchup, he still put up great points. He needs McBride to pick up. He had a lot of hype coming into the year with Kyler coming back, and Mikey might be all right. Things going to keep falling into place for him. 2 straight high scores, so he's in a good place. Jesse took his first loss of the year. Still a good performance, though, numbers-wise. Kyron looked unbelievable. Amon-Ra's getting his targets and his receptions back. Neighbors being a grown man, scoring 2 touchdowns. He looked really good. Could use Kelsey and Worthy kind of stepping up a little bit. That would help him. Kelsey mainly. Dobbins to keep up his production, and Jesse will be at a good point, especially with Brandon Aubrey keeping him in every matchup. Parker takes his first loss with a stinker of a week. Hurts and AR-15 looked awful. Stevenson 0.3 on Thursday night kind of set the tone. He won't lose much confidence. He shouldn't. Just kind of a blimp in the road. I think he'll be okay. He's still got a very, very good team, so he needs to come back this week. Nick Lowe starting off 3-0 again for what seems 4th or 5th time in this league. An okay scoring week, not great for the number 1 team. Lamar running rampant. JD's a little Lamar. Vikings defense dominant. Against Houston, too, which was a tough matchup. Needs a new addition, Jameson Williams, to kind of take the next step after the big trade this week. So, going to be interesting to see what Nick can do this week against Harrison, I think is who he has. So that'll be a good matchup. So our standings going into week 4, we got Nick Lowe, Mikey, Garvey, Jesse, Parker, Jackson, Harrison, Owen, Ryan, and Alex. And the tiebreakers are obviously points forced. For my power rankings, I released them obviously earlier in the week, but I got Nick Lowe, Parker, Mikey, Garvey, Jesse, Harrison, Jackson, Owen, Ryan, Alex. And then for my week 4 matchups and predictions, I got Parker versus Garvey. I got Parker beating me 155-143. I got Owen versus Alex. I got Alex squeaking out his first win of the year, 145-140. Harrison versus Nick Lowe. I got Nick Lowe losing for the first time this year, 127-120. Ryan versus Mikey. I got Mikey winning that 152-136. And Jesse versus Jackson. I got Jackson low score, Jesse high score. Jesse 162 to Jackson 117. Congrats to everybody who win. Prayers for everybody that lost. See you guys next week.